Okay, my friends. Today during my meditation, two things popped up. We'll just go inward and see which we're going to be working on today. If you will, though, join me. Take a deep breath into your belly. Come into the present moment, if you will. Nice deep breath into your body. Good. And exhale. And if you will, just scan what's going on for you in this moment, right now. Notice what you're blaming Mercury retrograde for, or what feels chaotic. and just tap into it, if you will. And as you tap into what's feeling like it's ruffling your feathers, if you will, connect into the part of you that feels powerless. And I'm going to share a quick story on this topic. It's a first world problem. Like, that's how I get my divine lessons these days. I ask for my divine lessons to come with ease and grace. Ease and grace, divine. Send me my lessons with ease and grace. No more being knocked upside the head with my lessons. I just teach me about oneness in the most graceful ways possible. So, I have a lot of karma with my daughters and schools and choices and money. Okay. If you've been with me for these years, you've heard these stories. And so the latest on that saga is that the school that my daughter chose to attend is a half hour away and starts a half hour early, which didn't hit me until yesterday on the first day of school that means her alarm started going off at 5:45 a.m. Now, in my quest for inner balance and self-care and knowing myself, one thing that I've learned, and you've probably, if you've studied with me, know that if I wake up after 7 a.m., my brain and my nervous system's good to go. But if I have to wake up before then, I'm kind of messy and cognitively out of it for most of the day, which sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it's just how I've found the rhythms of my body to work. Okay, so yesterday the alarm goes off at 5:45. My husband starts stirring. I'm up. I'm up before 6 involuntarily. Now, I have had decades of karma around being bitchy when I'm tired, and I've worked it and I've worked it and I've worked it. So, as I went to bed last night, I was kind of panicking like, oh shit, I have 3 years of a daughter having to wake up before 6 a.m. every single day. Like, this is not okay. So it doesn't matter whether it's a small issue or a large issue, it will register in our nervous systems. And what I registered in that moment is there's a condition in my life that's going to make it that I'm not mentally grounded. And that's not okay. So as I sat with that through the day and saw myself starting to amp up by the evening when I'm telling my daughter, do not set your alarm clock before 6 a.m. It's not okay. I started to feel myself in that state of feeling like I'm not going to be okay, which is an unfamiliar feeling because I've set up my life with such an infrastructure and a self-care regimen that I don't actually feel that very often. And so I share this in great detail just to help you start to identify the places in your life where there's an external condition that it feels like you're not going to be okay, whether it's that romantic relationship or whether it's that health condition. Mine just happens to be a really small issue, but it lands in my body as if I'm not going to survive, because that's what a death fear in our body feels like, whether it's rooted in trauma or because you are in a current trauma. So as I went to bed, I was able to go into awareness layer of my body. I was able to get off of the theatrical stage in my life and get into the audience, to be able to watch myself freaking out about not being able to ground my nervous system for the next 3 years. And it was in that moment that I immediately tapped into this concept of quantum leaping or quantum jumping, which is a thing that I've been really assimilating into my spiritual belief system over this summer. And I haven't fully adapted it into what my beliefs are. But what I recognized as I was drifting to sleep is there must be a parallel Kim Beekman that can wake up before 6 a.m. And as woo-woo as that sounds, which I try never to sound woo-woo, I try to keep all spiritual concepts as grounded in reality, implementable, repeatable as possible. But what I was able to tap into was the possibility that even though in my 49 years of life, I've never been able to wake up before 7 a.m. and feel functional, that there is a version of me that possibly could. But there were two ingredients that were necessary for that. Instead of blaming and punishing my daughter, which was my fire pitta instinct, how dare you choose a school? Victimization. I mean, my mind was there. Like she has a choice between these two schools still, and I wanted to blame and punish and manipulate her. Like I felt the impulse rise in my body, and she was like looking at me, and I was like, okay, I'm crazy here. So in that space, I had this deep awareness about what I was doing. So I was able to get into the audience. And I was able to move into the possibility that there was another version of myself that could be a morning person. And then the third ingredient, so awareness, possibility, and the third ingredient was wanting to be a morning person. I don't want to be a morning person. I like the fact that I found my rhythm and that 7 a.m. or after I'm good. It actually feels luxurious to me to have a life where I can wake up past 7 a.m. It's almost become part of my identity on what I describe as luxury. Like I do prayer and meditation every day on the Lakshmi. I don't know if you can see her, on abundance, and waking up after 7 a.m. has become part of the abundance in my life. So I'd actually have to want to make that shift. So at the night before, I believed that I could, or I got into the space of awareness. And then I hit the sense of possibility that there might be a morning Kim Beekman in a parallel universe. Sorry to use that language, but that's literally what I had to jump. And then this morning in my meditation, I had to contemplate whether anger and manipulation or desire for change was the route I was going to. I was literally at the fork in the road. And because I don't have shame around the fact that my pitta fiery style goes toward punishment and manipulation, I could actually see that I was choosing between that and wanting to change. See, if we have shame around our shadow qualities, we're not even seeing that we have a choice to choose that because we're not even identifying that we're choosing that. That's caved off. Does that make sense? So I'm like, okay, I really want to manipulate my daughter into choosing the other school that's nearby and starts at 8:30. I'd like that. I'd like to take away her free will. And I sat with that and I did a feeling and processing on that desire to take the shortcut, to not change, but to change the person outside or to change the conditions outside of me. So if you're struggling in a marriage, in a career, with a child who's on drugs, I want you to take this very innocent example and start to apply it. I want the other person to change so I can be more comfortable because I don't really want to choose change for within myself. I got people typing into the chat of other ways that I can get external change because that's what we do. We try to change the external circumstance to keep ourselves comfortable. Well, if my partner would change, then I'll get the cuddle that I want, or I'll get more sex in my life, or I'll get peace, or I'll get whatever. So this is my version of that. So this morning I made the shift. This is like within a 12 to 24-hour period of wanting to change this within myself. Now, how do we know if change within is a valid thing or if we're just compromising who we are for the situation? So the evaluation had to take place within me of, does it make me a better, more generous, more loving, more productive, more forward thinking person to change within myself? Does it make me more generous? Does it make me a better person? And the answer to that question is yes. It makes me a generous mother. It makes me less manipulative. It makes me a morning person. I mean, that's not necessarily bad. So yes, this growth is forward moving for me. And that's an important check. Because there's a lot of people that are in relationships where their partner is kind of a jerk and they're trying to be more generous to please the jerk. And they're using internal work and personal growth as a method to change the outside world by doing it within themselves. Do you see that distinction? So is it in the highest and greatest good of me as a human to become a morning person, to become more patient, more generous? And so that's what my work is today. You know, if you've been watching me through either inner alignment work or here, working on building my heart and being more generous is what my work is. I'm pitta, I'm fire, right? So grounding, sacral chakra connection, and building my heart is where my work is. So I share that with you because I want you in that space where you're blaming Mercury retrograde this week, or you're feeling like your feathers are ruffled by that spouse or that boss or that coworker or that adult child of yours, or that Lyme disease. So let me now take this off of the benign example of my daughter and me becoming a morning person, but this is exactly what I did with Bartonella infection and Rocky Mountain infection over the last 5 to 10 years of my life. I was in a space of suffering with chronic infection and identifying as a survivor of chronic infection. And what I started to recognize is that my identity, who I was and how I was in the world, was starting to get defined by dis-ease. And then I'd go to Facebook groups and we would see all of the consciousness of suffering and feeling victimized by this disease. So what happened in that space was there was a decision made in my consciousness. I got into the audience. I saw that I am a diseased person in a consciousness of suffering and disability. I got into the audience, most important piece. I then saw that there was a possibility of another version of myself that had Bartonella and Rocky Mountain spotted fever, but was totally vibrant and healthy and conscious and full of vitality. And then I started to do the work to change, to move into the version of myself, that parallel Kim Beekman that thrived, even if my lab results were a freaking mess. I probably should have started with this example, right? So this is already in my consciousness. And now when I see people in the Lyme community or in the mold or in the, metal toxicity or whatever community, I have such compassion because I know what it's like to be in the consciousness of chronic infection, long COVID, what you name it. I get it. Look at your labs. There's no hope. The federal government doesn't even acknowledge long Lyme disease and co-infections. I get it. And awareness, possibility that there's another version of myself that thrives in the face of Bartonella and chronic infection. And then doing the work to bring myself into the vibrational frequency in my cells such that I can live in the consciousness of thriving, even if my physical body has this thing with infections. That's the work that I did 5 years ago when I was flat out on my back. And now if you look at my labs, I look like a very sick person. And I can't do things that normal people can do physically. But you wouldn't know that when you interact with me unless you want to go exercise with me. Because I shifted out of dis-ease consciousness. And it doesn't mean I'm spiritually bypassing the fact that I have to take like 2 handfuls of antioxidants before I go to bed, right? I'm not pretending it's not there. I go for body work and I do a lot of health related stuff to support my body. So I'm not ignoring it or spiritually bypassing it. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm getting myself out of a belief system and a consciousness of dis-ease, disorder, and dysfunction. Now, my lifestyle is I sit on this couch. I have set up my life. I sleep past 7 a.m. I have set up my life to support this physical body in a way that's abundant and juicy and allows me to continue to feel healthy. So it doesn't mean that on the physical realm, I don't do what I need to do to support. And that's a very important thing because there's a lot of people telling you to spiritually bypass your physical body or your emotions. And that's just, I don't recommend that because it'll catch up to you later, in my opinion. But we can tap into the consciousness of ourselves in a healed space and hold our body in a much healthier place than it would be if our mental and emotional, energetic bodies were actually living at the same space that our physical bodies were. Does that make sense? And I'm not suggesting causing a split, but I am suggesting getting the mental, emotional, spiritual, and energetic bodies living up here to pull the physical body up with it. Not to disconnect from it. So let's go into that space beyond just creating a new set of beliefs, but making the shift in consciousness. And I would define consciousness as a 6 layers of the body: mental, emotional, physical, nervous system, physical body, energetic body, the chakras, the doshas, our awareness body, our consciousness, and the bliss layer of the body. We have 6 layers of ourselves. So if one layer of the body is not doing so well, there are 5 other layers of the body that we can shift in addition to the layer of the body that's not doing as well. And it's not just a belief system. It's not just our perspective. It's not just our mental concepts. It's the other 5 layers of ourselves pulling this one layer up. So if you will, join me. Join me in being able to shift. Someone just asked, for those of you who have done inner alignment, how does this differ from destination vibration? We are like putting the destination vibration on steroids. So if you've read my Awaken Your Potency book, that's what they're asking. So it's just a different way to look at destination vibration. Destination vibration kind of feels like I'm in this reality and I'm building myself into a higher reality. In quantum leaping, it's like you don't have to even move yourself. If you've ever cold turkey quit an addiction, like if you have ever been like, I'm done with that. And then you spend 20 years fighting this addiction, and then one day you just stop. That's what I would call a leap into a different version of yourself, in a different dimension. It's like for 40 years, I was addicted. And then one day I was like, not addicted. So that's the kind of leap I'm encouraging you to consider. And it's a different quantum theory. It's this quantum theory that's different than what I normally teach, which is why I've been trying to figure out how it integrates into my belief structure and into the inner alignment system. It's taking me a while. But today, what I'm saying is try not to relate it to anything I've ever taught you and just assume. You've heard of multiple lifetimes, and you've heard that multiple lifetimes are all happening at the same time because there's no time or space in the physical or in this realm. In the spiritual realm, there's no time and space. So if you believe in multiple lifetimes, all those lifetimes are happening at the same time. So is there another version of myself that's not addicted, that doesn't have cancer, that doesn't have Lyme disease, that's not that is a morning person? Is there another already momentum part of myself that I can leap into and borrow that consciousness? That's what I'm going to urge you to do today. It may not fit with anything in your belief system. And this is how I recovered from bulimia at 15 years old. And this is how I shifted out of Lyme disease consciousness in my 40s. So I can tell you that it works, but I can't yet tell you how it relates. Okay, so does everyone in your mental body have a sense of what low consciousness reality? We're building awareness. What low consciousness reality do you believe you're stuck in? Write it down or identify it. Where do you think you're stuck? Awareness. Where are you still on the theatrical stage of playing out this drama in your life? Pick one situation that feels the most stuck. And as you think about that situation, I'm going to ask you to build awareness. I want you to see the victimization. Notice I haven't gotten you into a meditative state because I need your ego on board here. How are you victimized? I mean, I made myself a victim of my 15-year-old daughter. who chose to go to a Catholic school for school. So we can victimize ourselves about anything. Scarcity mindset, powerlessness mindset. So where are you victimized? And how might you, yeah, there's a couple people actually who are on here who have a spouse with addiction. So use that. Thank you for bringing that up, those who just private texted me. Okay, so feel yourself victimized by that person or that situation. It's okay, you won't manifest more of it. You've already manifested it. So as you close your eyes and come into your breath, as you build awareness of how powerless, how much scarcity, how wrong or bad you feel, just pull yourself into the audience now. So take a deep breath into your body. Stay connected to the victimization. It's okay. You feel victimized. Honor that feeling. And now, if you will, step off the stage of playing out the tragedy and just step into the audience. And as you step into the audience, just watch it play out, if you will. Watch what they do, watch what you do, whether it's a codependent pattern. You storm off and to say the story of, I do so much, how could you? Just watch it. Watch it as a pattern. Breathe into it and just get comfy in the audience and create some space between you and this dramatic theatrical production that you are playing out with yourself or the other person. And as you watch it play out, see the pattern. And just notice how you have created part of this as your identity. I give so much. I've tried so hard. Just notice how your ego has gotten interwoven into the pattern or the issue that's played out for probably lifetimes. So as you watch on the stage, see if you can sense into, this is not the first rodeo with this pattern or this person. Maybe last time you had swords and you were on a battlefield, or you were the mother or the king. Just try to sense how old, how long. Feel it in your cells that this is not new, that this is not a unique occurrence. And as you take this off of the other person, start to feel into all of the experiences, either in this lifetime or if you have the sensitivity to past lifetimes, just how many times you've repeated the very essence of this fear. Things don't work out for me. I'm a bad person. I do so much and I'm not appreciated. Whatever it is, just feel how long it's played out. And as you build your awareness around this pattern being yours, even though there's a big, shiny, fiery object in front of you that's so tempting to blame, this is the pattern that you've come to transmute and transform. Feeling this awareness, allow yourself to sense into the possibility that there might be a more productive pattern, a more, an easier path, another way through this experience that maybe you don't even know what or how that looks like. Maybe another option, a more abundant, powerful, empowered experience here. So just feel into the possibility that there's another trajectory of you acting totally different on a totally different stage altogether. And so as you sit in the audience, pivot yourself in another direction to see yourself on a different stage. On a stage that never even had this problem, that acted completely different around someone with an addiction or a health problem within yourself. They didn't. This version of you doesn't have the people-pleasing gene, the codependency pattern, the victimization. So just see yourself, this version of you, without the pattern, with a completely new physics around this type of situation. maybe a parallel life, a parallel version of yourself. And just feel, if you will, what it would be like to not have that pattern and to maybe have the absolute opposite experience in that situation, a joyful, easy, not bothered, neutral response to that kind of issue. Just feel in your body what that version of you experiences in response to the external situation. Ease, grace, love, grounding, self-connection, feeling like you matter, feeling seen, inspired. Feel it, jump onto that stage and fully experience it in your whole body. As you leap into that version of yourself, feel it. Feel the emotion, the thought. And notice what's missing, what's not there, not even a trace. And as you feel this version of you, this parallel universe of you, just sense back into your desire here. Does this feel like a version of you that you're ready to work for, to earn on a day-to-day basis? It doesn't need to be hard or suffering. Is there a desire to make this your well-worn path? If you will, feel into the upper belly in your will. Just notice if your will feels activated to stay in this reality of you. This is where the merge happens. So as you are both on this new reality stage and also in the audience, feel yourself unhook from the last stage. As you now shift yourself to leap into this new stage, this version of you. And just notice what's completely accessible now. in this other version of yourself. This new stage, this new version doesn't have the childhood trauma or the stories or the ego identity, the vibrations in its body. It's free of all of it. So as you commit to this, begin now to feel in your body the reality of this. And to do that, I'm going to ask you to breathe into your body in this present moment, at this spot in time and space reality. And as you come back into this moment, take a deep breath. Allowing the body to catch up with this quantum leap. So, for example, I may have woken up at 6 something this morning, the second day, and I might feel heavy eyes, but there's 80% less suffering. So the 20% that's left is going to require a commitment to stay on this new trajectory, leaped into this new version. Morning, Kim. So I want you to name this new version of you. Just name it. And imagine it's a fork in the road, or imagine the bowling alley with the well-worn gutter. That what we're doing now is keeping ourselves out of that well-worn gutter that is neurosynaptically wired into our brain and neurochemistry. And it's getting our brain and neurochemistry on board with the quantum leap into the new stage. Working with the body is important. So this week, I'm working on my body's adjustment to morning Kim. So you might have to work with your fight or flight response to that alcoholic spouse, or to the cravings yourself for that substance. That's the 10 or 20% that we're talking about that needs to be realistically addressed as you keep yourself on that new stage, leaped into that new version of yourself. So let's seal this experience by allowing the violet flame and the white light of ascension to pour through our spine. One deep breath. Exhale it into your field. Seal off your energy field, allowing it to transmute whatever's in there that's old from that old stage. Anchoring this in, sealing your field up by saying, and so it is done. And so it is done. Namaste, my friends. Much love.